What are you doing here? What are you doing here? What are you doing here is a question that Abraham opened with in Asheville in the month of November. I listened to a YouTube yesterday that was 7 hours, and I didn't listen to the whole thing, but I started it. And it started with the question, what are you doing here? And it's a question that they put to the participants that were there at that session. And it's a question that I'm putting to you here today. What are you doing here? It's the questions that move us forward. And this question is powerful. It's powerful and it's a winner. Because ultimately, around the planet, people are going to churches and people are going to spiritual communities ultimately for the same reason, although it shows up with many different names and many different faces. Here at Unity of Wilmington, we come here for many different reasons, but ultimately we come into a church or into a spiritual community or into a spiritual experience because we want to align ourselves with God. We want to align ourselves with our divinity. We want to align ourselves with that essence, that ever-powerful, ever-present essence of the divine. That's why we're here. That's why we're here. We might say, oh, I'm here because I want to have friendships, so I want to be in community. And yes, community is one of the ways we align ourselves with God. I want to be here because I want to be spiritually nourished. I want to be inspired. And inspiration is one of the ways where we align ourselves with God. We might say, I want to be here to serve humankind. I want to be here for my fellow human being. I want to be here to support youth education. I want to be here to support the music program. I want to be here for spiritual social action. I want to be here to volunteer. But ultimately, volunteering in service is a way to align ourselves with God. It's a way to come together in community. There's a Unity writer who talks about having the call of our soul come together, the call of our spirit come forth. His name is Ernest Wilson, and he was a writer in the last century, but this is what he said. Well, first of all, I have to show you his picture. Here he is. Everyone has soul power. Everyone employs it, often without knowing it. He talks about a pianist or a person, and probably most of us in this room could sit down at a piano and with one finger find a melody that's familiar to us. It might be Happy Birthday, but with one finger, most of us could do this. Now, some of us will be called and inspired to use 10 fingers. And some of us will be called and inspired, Ernest Wilson writes, to look at music and to learn how to read the notes on a page and how to translate it. Or maybe we play by ear and we translate it into this beautiful sound that comes out like when Andy Whittington plays. It comes out in music, and that is what we call our genius. That's our genius. Ernest Wilson says there is something that is in the soul of you, and it may not be piano playing. It may be something else. Well, it is something. There is something in the soul of you that wants you to do so much that no effort seems too much. In such cases, the effort is almost lost sight of in the sheer joy and satisfaction, even a degree of pleasurable exhaustion of self-expression. That is the fulfillment of your own special soul power. And when you apply yourself to it, its expression in any one way, you will soon find that you can express it with ever-increasing joy, skill, and power in many ways. It is wonderful. So your soul has called you to this spiritual community. Your soul has called you and to a community where you are surrounded by love and support in ways that you may have experienced or that you have no idea exist. you are surrounded by love and support in this community, even if it's your 100th time or your first time. Because our soul has called us to this place. And our soul power is moving through us in such a big and powerful way that we return again and again and again to the intention of coming into alignment with God. So regardless of what we see on the outside, it's our intention that pulls us back to remembering our oneness with God. Paramahansa Yogananda has this wonderful statement, leave behind all useless thoughts and past sorrows and bad habits, start life anew. And that's perfect for this time of year. And it's perfect for this message. Because when we think about our soul power and what our soul is called to do, there are things in our lives that we've had resonance with that we have added to our consciousness. We've added them to our consciousness and we don't need them anymore. So leave those thoughts behind. Leave what doesn't serve us behind and step in to the new. Step into what is calling us, what is whispering to us. We have this intention of being one with God, but that intention shows up by many names. We might hear a different name whispered to us in meditation. We might hear a different name in our white stone ceremony last weekend, and we wrote it down on the stone. We might have a name that just comes back to us or starts showing up in all kinds of places. You know, once we get this name, it's sneaky about reminding us. It's so sneaky. There it is on our stone. There it is on a street sign. There it is in a magazine advertisement. And there it is coming on a billboard. Or your word is so secret that you don't see it everywhere, and you know it in your heart. But it is this name that's coupled with our intention that brings us back to a desire to be in alignment with God. In my experience, 2015 in this community was one of many things. It was one of grief. It was one of loss. It was one of change. It was one of transition. So we could actually say 2015 for Unity of Wilmington was the year of transition. In the beginning of the year, we signed a contract. We got an interim spiritual leader, and then we got a new music director, and then we had guest speakers come in and out, and we had workshops, and then we had the candidates come in for the ministerial program. And I mean, that was only the first 5 months. And then when I came, oh, lovely. Starting at the beginning of month 6, you think, oh, good, we're going to get some stability. We're going to have stability in our leadership and our administration now because we have a minister. And what does the minister do? Well, she introduces change. We changed up the order of service on Sunday. We have new music. We have new programs. We had an insurance audit, so now we have new contracts. We have all kinds of things that happened in 2015, which could be really called the year of transition. So 2016 then, what's next? You know, we've now gestated with all our transition. We're burgeoning. We're ready. We're just about ready to pop. So 2016 can be said, we can call it the Year of Emergence. The Year of Emergence. Here's an intention. Love gives birth to new being. Joy provides ease and vibrancy to our journey. Peace is the outworking of being fully present. These are wonderful intentions. These are wonderful guidelines to keep us coming back to our oneness with God. But how do we do that? How do we do that? Because how we reset our intention, how we recalibrate our vibration, how we recalibrate ourselves to this higher, greater frequency is what guides our very next step. Verbs are wonderful. Verbs are really wonderful because they can set consciousness in themselves. But we have to be careful when we choose verbs, because verbs in themselves do have a vibration. And there are two choices, and this is what Charles Fillmore, our co-founder, calls a tricky proposition. Because we can choose verbs that support us, that encourage us, that open us, that help us move into that emergence, or we can choose verbs that affirm something that's not really true about us. We can choose verbs that are what I call the other verbs. The verbs that affirm brokenness, that affirm that we're a self-improvement project, that affirm we have to work on ourselves. These are verbs that are red flags that we're in the other category. I'm working on it, I'm trying, I'm waiting, I'm rebutting it, I'm attempting. I'm going to argue that point. Maintaining, training, and wishing. I wish, I wish, I wish. When we use these verbs, it should be like, warning, warning. You might want to think about it, well, let's say 183 other verbs that are on a list in your bulletin that are really supportive, that do what Jesus invited us to do. Jesus didn't say, would you please work on it? Jesus didn't say, would you try it? Jesus said, I wish you would wish upon a star. Jesus said, pick up your bed and walk. Jesus took strong action verbs. Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is ready to emerge from within you. The kingdom of heaven is ready to express through you. Current day motivation guru Anthony Robbins gives a wonderful context for how we can use verbs. He considers the art of achievement to fall into two categories: resources and resourcefulness. Resources are limiting. Resources are something that we think we only have a little bit of. And when we use them up, they will be depleted. Versus this infinite source, this infinite kingdom of God that's within us all the time, that's our soul power, that's bubbling up as creativity, that's bubbling up as our passion. It's a whole different consciousness. And when we use verbs that are like resourcefulness, then the kingdom of God emerges and expresses through us. If we use verbs that are more like a contraction, then we're placing our faith in the outer. We're placing our vibration in an outer circumstance. We're placing our vibration in something outside of us that we think needs to be fixed. So verbs are our friend. Verbs are our friend. So what verbs do you want, do you resonate with for 2016? I've been challenging myself every year to pick 3 verbs to support me. Because yes, my intention is to experience and express my oneness with God. That's every year. That's an every year intention. And how I do that changes because I change. I have a greater awareness of my oneness with God. So my verbs have to change. In 2014, my verbs were cultivate, magnetize, and choose. Choose. Choosing is a very powerful verb. Cultivate was like, yes, of course, I'm a minister. I plant spiritual seeds. I nourish them. I watch them grow in people. I watch people light up. I watch them get aha. I watch them come back the next week and I said, I tried what you told me to try and it was great. That's cultivation. Magnetizing is magnetizing the support and the inspiration I need to express my passion. Choosing, by the end of 2014, I was choosing a new job and I chose to apply at Unity of Wilmington. So 2015, my verbs were expanding, spreading my wings and flying into new territory. Engaging, my intention included making new connections and making new friends. And in order to make those connections, I had to be in community. I had to be in community with other people. And while I was with other people, I had to be engaging. Right? That's how friendship starts. You gotta be engaging. I gotta be engaging. And my third one, I actually did have a little argument with God. My third one was surfing. I'm from Hawaii. I don't surf. I don't like surfing. I surfed when I was 11 years old and I ran Billy Pinchon over with my board. So I quit. I mean, surfing was not for me. So I told God, I don't think so. And it didn't take very long, and it was like, oh, the metaphysics of surfing. Riding those waves of life. Riding the waves of my feelings all the way. Riding my waves of grief and sadness. Riding my waves of fear. Riding my waves, my waves of excitement. My waves of abundance. Those are the waves that I rode in 2015. So now it's 2016, and we're all ready for the challenge. So far, I have two verbs. So far, I have two verbs. One is to nourish, and I really get to nourish myself and to nourish other people. One is to magnify. I have no idea yet what that means. And the other one just hasn't emerged yet. So I have homework to do. But you have homework to do too. In your bulletin, there's a list of 183 verbs. And of course, the 9 o'clock service has already told me a whole bunch of verbs I forgot. So there's at least maybe 189 really good ones in the dictionary or more. And you can do, there's a variety of ways to do it. You can do the good old Mindy Tucker, close your eyes and go that one. And follow spirit moving through your finger as you point to it. Or you can look at it, you can allow it to emerge, you can sit in meditation and don't even worry about the list and take what comes up in you. You can do the system of molding all 3 or 4 or 5 or more ways of discerning what your verbs are. But my challenge to you is to take this list home and to look at it and find your 3 verbs. And we can begin right now. We can begin. If you need one, our welcome team is happy to bring you another one. They're yellow. They'll be easy to find. You can do the hidden picture. I'm watching Vicki. You can do the hidden picture way, where you focus and then you don't focus, and you focus and you don't, and see what pops out. But take a look at it right now. We're going to take a look for a few minutes, and then we're going to go into meditation. Gratitude for our own individual soul power, for our own individual genius. For the individual that we uniquely are, with our love and our light, curiosity, our creativity, our determination. Unity of Wilmington is holding the container for you. A container filled with love and support. A container with potential and possibility. A container that wraps around the whole of you, all the parts, holding the vibration of wholeness and perfection.